You have been officially named a billionaire by Forbes. When you think back to the little kid who was told by his teacher that he couldn't be a millionaire,
Yeah.
how does that distinction make you feel?
I haven't, if people, oh, darling, I haven't thought about it. It's just been wonderful. No, I honestly do not think about it. What it has afforded me more than anything is the opportunity to do more of what I love, to hire more people, and to expand and grow and grow and grow this thing that is becoming the studio that is becoming a beacon and a legacy, not only for me, for my son, but also for people, kids in this neighborhood to see it and go, he did that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Tyler Perry, for joining Variety, our Showman of the Year. Congratulations. What does it mean to you, and what do you think makes a great showman?
I keep hearing the lyrics from A Greatest Showman in my head, right? This is me, I'm going to do it my way. I'm not a stranger to the dark. Those lyrics are so amazing. So to be a showman, I just, what that means is many things, but just to try and use what I've been given and use this platform, use the gifts that I've managed to have to celebrate and encourage and lift other people. That feels pretty awesome.
Well, This Is Me is one of the songs that you had performed for all of your guests at the grand opening gala last October at Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta. Now that you've had a little bit of space from that evening, what did it mean to you to be able to bring all of Black Hollywood together in one place?
It was really profound. It was really important to have a studio where the streets are still named after Confederate soldiers, and I'm in the process of changing that. To have monuments erected to Black people who have changed the entire world through our industry of film and television, to be able to erect monuments to them that are standing as beacons of hope for so many people. That, to me, is what it's all about. And what a gift to be able to be the person that was able to orchestrate that. That's a blessing. I don't know if people really realize how important it is for young Black and brown children to be able to see examples of what it means to be successful outside of what they see in the neighborhoods. I mean, growing up, for me, they were the only people that were doing well were pimps and the preacher. Now to be able to set examples for kids that there are other options outside of sports for Black kids. There are other options outside of what everybody tells you these are the only things you can do. You can be CEO, you can run a studio, you can use everything you have for good to help someone else.
In reopening Tyler Perry Studios, getting everyone back to work in the midst of a pandemic, what are you the most proud of?
Keeping everyone safe, understanding that Black and brown people are the most affected, poor and disenfranchised and frontline workers are the most affected by COVID. We are still dying at alarming numbers because of COVID. So to be able to usher 360 people in every time, show after show after show, and get them through safely, it was a gift. It put everything in perspective. Every time I say action, every time I say cut, every time I'm giving direction to an actor, it changes every moment. I appreciate it so much because I love what I do. It raised the love of it to a whole new level for me.
What was the hardest part?
I'm not an anxious man at all, but my level of anxiety was through the roof to just going through those moments. Every time I saw an actor have to take their mask off or to shoot a scene or to get a makeup touch up or their hair touched up or something, it really, really raised my anxiety. And that part of it I didn't like. I cannot believe we are living in a pandemic to this magnitude without a federal plan in 2020. It's shocking to me.
You were in and are in such an incredibly unique position with Tyler Perry Studios, having the space, the infrastructure, even having the planes that you're able to use and utilize to help bring the cast in.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I bought this place in 2015. I had people telling me, Tyler, slow down. Why are you moving so fast? Let's just build one stage and work it. I said, no. I feel this sense of urgency to get this done quickly and get it done now. And I didn't know what it was, but looking at it now, that sense of urgency, that gut, that thing that's in me was leading me the right way for sure. This has been the most anxiety-filled, emotional roller coaster of a year that I think I've ever had in my life. From the loss of Kobe, as someone who I'd just seen a month before and got the biggest, warmest greeting from, and he was blown away by the studio opening and everything. And just from that into a pandemic, into the George Floyd and the racial injustice that's really finding its way. As Will Smith said, racism isn't new, it's just getting filmed. Just seeing everything that's happened, it's been hard to stay focused on the good and the positive, and it's been a challenge to do that, but I thank God I have my faith and I've managed to be able to do that.
What does it mean to you to be able to be in a position to speak about those topics?
Unfortunately, in this climate and where we are in this country in an election year, everything is polarizing, everything is political. Everybody has grabbed a color. Nobody wants to meet in the middle. Nobody wants to have conversation. Everybody wants to use it for their advantages, which is traumatically wrong on so many levels. So to be able to have a platform and a voice and millions of people who follow what I do and love what I do, and to be able to say to them, can we at least have a conversation? Can we have a conversation? Because healing is in the conversation. And I want you to understand and know both sides. I want you to hear my side, being a Black man in America, but I also want to hear the side from opposite voices so that we can hear it all. And I think that's where the healing is. So it's my hope that we do more of that. And
you are working and living in a very, very politically charged state in Georgia. When do you decide about getting political or not?
You know, I really, truly don't want to get political. What I want people to do is vote, because everybody has very strong opinions about this. But I'm neither Democrat or Republican. I'm an independent thinker. I vote for who I think is best to run the country. And to be in this moment and have to know when to weigh in is really important. And listen, this is the time. This is the time to weigh in fully, to use everything you have to weigh in for sure. My hope is that inside of these protests that we learn that now you have the attention of the world. What do you do with it? Because in the 60s, when those kids who are my grandparents and great-grandparents now sat on lunch counters, they had a plan. They had a list of demands that they wanted to see met, and they were. So I'm hopeful for the plan.
You're celebrating more than 25 years in the business. You started out working odd jobs to earn that $12,000 that you used to stage your first play. What do you remember about that very first show?
Fear. Tremendous fear of, is this going to work? Is my mother right? This is never going to work. Will my life be chained to a desk making $300 a week? There was a lot of fear, and that's what I remember, just working so hard, trying to make it work in every way that I could, because I was afraid that if it didn't, what would happen to me? What would my life be? And that's what I would tell anybody who's got a dream. It's okay. That fear is natural and it's healthy. Embrace it. Embrace it so that you can get to the other side of it. Let that be the fuel. Let that be the smoke that pushes you away from the flames into what you're supposed to do.
As long as you got a piece of steel, you're gonna have peace. Load your steel. Thank you, Jesus.
So when you then decide to transition to Hollywood and start dealing with those industry execs for the first time, and they're telling you things like, Black people that go to church don't go to the movies, this isn't going to work. How did you find a way to make the business work for you?
Listen, those are the only things that I've said publicly. There are some stories that I could tell that are really, really bad, but for the sake of the town and for the sake of the people who said it, I've never said them. Especially in this climate, it's so charged, it would blow people's mind. But I've never had a budget in Hollywood that allowed me to be competitive. I've never had an open door or an invitation or opportunity while I watched, my white brothers and sisters get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, no matter if their shows or movies fail or not. They just get it. But I had to find a way. And never complaining, never pointing a finger saying, you should, never feeling sorry for myself, understanding that this is the hand that I was dealt, and this Black skin that encompasses me is beautiful. I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm not going to be ashamed of it, but I'm going to make it work for me and for us.
That whole idea that we all have to work twice as hard to get honestly, not even just as far, half as far.
Listen, Angelique, I could tell you the stories. Yes.
Did you do this? This is Vera Wang.
Who that is? She do nails? I need to get my nails did.
And then when you make that big break with Diary of a Mad Black Woman, you do the thing that you became known for doing, which is overperforming box office expectations. What do you remember most about that moment when you said, okay, we're going to make this 20 million weekend one. How am I going to do it?
I had been on tour for years, building and cultivating an audience that when I, before Twitter, Instagram, all this stuff, I had my email mailing list. I would email them or ask them to show up. The same thing that happened at the Kodak Theater at the time, home of the Oscars. I had booked the building. They were procrastinating, putting the tickets on sale. I asked them how many people they had in the box office, work in the box office. And they, oh, we have one. It's like, no, you may want to bring in 4 or 5. Oh, no, we don't need that for this. We don't need that. I had no idea. I sent the email out, sold out all those shows. The woman's wig was crooked. She was so shocked at what had happened. But it was the same way in Hollywood. I think it was the night of the Oscars. It was Oscar weekend, I think, that the movie came out. The shock for them was something that was puzzling to me. But I realized that they totally did not understand, did not get the audience, did not recognize them as a viable group of people who can actually affect your bottom line.
What is it going to take for Hollywood to recognize the audience is there?
What I'm grateful to see what Hollywood is doing is this diversity. This is such a cool buzzword right now, just getting diversity, and we need diversity. And I think it's great because the very actors that I could call 5 years ago and say, hey, I need you to do this and this, they're all working. We were auditioning for one thing, and every Black actor that I knew had a job. Beautiful. I think that's amazing. So I think that they are understanding that there's an audience and a hunger for our culture, which is great. As long as that continues, that's amazing. Let's keep that going. But I also know that, there have been waves of this before. If you look in the 70s and the Black exploitation films, and you look in some of the early 90s with Boys in the Hood, and there are waves of it now. This feels more like a movement than just a wave. So I'm hoping that it's here to stay.
A big part of the reason why a lot of those Black actors are all booked up right now is because you were able to give them that shot. Taraji, who you gave her first $500,000 quote. You've had so many of these A-listers. Idris Elba, who has said that you changed the way he was seen in Hollywood as being able to be that leading man. How does it make you feel to know that you were in that position to create these career paths for them to go down?
When I hear those things, I think it's absolutely wonderful for them to say, but first of all, it's their talent that brought them to those places for sure, and they deserve that and so much more. But when I hear those things, it makes me go back to my mother saying, find a way. And in my finding a way, there were a bunch of people that were coming through the door with me, the doors that I was building for myself and the tables that I was building for myself, they were allowed to sit at and create. That's why I tell people when you come to work for me, this is a place for you to come and build your base, build a great audience that will support you in whatever else you're going to do, because that's what they've done for me all these years.
That idea of the criticism, you've talked about how you've kind of moved past it or tried to not, just kept on going forward. But was there ever a moment where it kind of hurt?
You got to understand how I grew up. I grew up with a man who criticized me, said all kinds of horrible things to me every day of my life. And if that 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old beautiful kid can endure that and find a way, what kind of man would I be to be hurt or bothered by some other criticism? Because I never see a lot of it, but if it does get to me, I look for truth in it. When there's truth in the criticism, like, why did he do this, and this? I go, you think about that. That's, yeah. And also what I understand is that a lot of people don't get my audience. They don't understand the language that we speak.
It's true, too. What you said about the audience is a lot of times, we're still seeing that film criticism is generally done by white male critics who are really the opposite of your audience. So do you feel like that has had anything to do with it?
The only movie that I ever wrote that got some critical acclaim didn't do very well. So I know to speak to the audience. That is the business. That is the voice. Those are the people that matter the most to me. And what taught me that is I sat in the Kodak Theater, had 2 critics on this exact same row. One a middle-aged white man, one a younger Black man, from 2 major news organizations, major top organizations. Very different reviews of the same show. One loved it, one hated it. So I was just like, it's a matter of opinion.
And I feel like people, of course, have also come around and begun to understand things more. Even Spike Lee. Y'all have a great relationship at the moment. You named a soundstage after the man.
I think if any criticism stung, it would have been his, because I had so much respect and admiration for him. But again, people's opinions are their opinions, but that doesn't negate the fact of the work that he's done, and he's due the honor of having a stage named after him. And more than that, I mean, the man has done some incredible work and was a true inspiration to me coming up.
Hey, everything okay?
Tyler, these shows are outrageous. I mean, outrageous.
I know.
No. Outrageous!
Well, on the topic of inspirations, I of course have to bring up Oprah, who first, you're watching television and it inspires you to write, to really get those feelings out, these stories pour out of you. Now you call her a friend and also a fellow billionaire. What is it like to have that relationship and that mentorship with her?
You know, I would run home from school at 3 o'clock every weekday to see her on television. That's surreal that this woman, this Black woman who looked like my sister, aunt, friend, who was one of the first Black people I saw on television, certainly the first Black woman to control and own a television show and studio. She blew me away in the way she spoke and the class and the grace and how she maintained it all. It was just so amazing. So now to be able to call her friend, pick up the phone and call her friend, and we texting each other, joke, and she's hilarious, by the way. We text each other, we're joking, we're laughing. Yeah, again, that's part of the miracle of just being born in this country and know that any of these kind of things can happen for either of us.
This is fantastic. Tyler knows exactly what he is doing.
Will Smith took you overseas for a little bit to talk about, you know, the marketplace.
He was on a world tour of 7 pounds, and he wanted to show me, because I had all these executives tell me that Black movies, Black people don't travel internationally. It just doesn't work internationally. He said, that's not true. Come. I flew over with him. There was some kind of bug going around. His bodyguard got it, then his hairstylist got it, then he got it. And I didn't know any of this when I got there. So he and I ride in the car going, I'm watching him on the carpet. I'm so excited. 2 days later, that thing wiped me out. So yeah, he got me sick, really, really sick. But he did show me what he meant.
You're like, I came here for advice, not for illness, but thanks for that. You know, what would you say, if you had to break it down, are the secrets to your success?
One is totally believing in yourself. A tremendous faith, of just a stupid work ethic. My work ethic is insane. I look at myself sometimes and go, are you kidding me? It's so crazy to see everybody around me who are half my age not able to keep up. And I have to say, okay, Tyler, I have Andy who works here at the studio. It's just my right hand. He'll say, I think you might need to pull up a little bit. They're having some trouble keeping up.
My other one is the focus on creating generational wealth. I feel like you were one of the people, especially, who was talking about it the most and the earliest. What is it like to see more Black people in Hollywood being able to make those moves after that is something that you've preached for years?
You know, that is what changes it. You know, I look at these moments that happen in Hollywood, and these moments of everything's Black and we're excited now and everything's great. And I'm going, okay, great, that's wonderful. But what is the plan? What is the plan to sustain this? And to sustain it, you have to have ownership. You have to have more control. And that only comes with people that want to step out and own it. Now, listen, there are a lot of actors in Hollywood who just want to be actors. It's their gift to be actors. They are incredible at being actors. And that is amazing. And I celebrate them for being that and doing exactly that. So you have to know your lane. There aren't a lot of people who want to do many things, be the last one to turn the lights off and clean the house and clean the rug and clean the studio and do all of that stuff and then go to work and act. There aren't a lot of people who do that. And I respect that. But my hope is that even no matter which category you fall in, that more ownership happens.
So at one point you were going to be playing Oscar Michaud for HBO. Is that film still happening?
Yes, it's unfortunately for me, the wheels of Hollywood and production and development can move extremely slow. That's not how it works in Tyler Perry land. You know, I write a movie today, in 3 weeks we're filming. It just, so the wheels grind very slowly. But yeah, that's still a hope, still a goal, and it's moving forward, but it's extremely slow.
You are probably the person that most people compare to him in what he was able to accomplish and the way that he was able to work the movie system.
You know, there's certain people that if I had a time machine, I would love to just meet. Wouldn't want to live in that time period because it was really hard for us. Even if we look at the horrors of what we're going through now, that was far worse. But I wish I could have just met him, because as I read his story and I find out more and more about him, our lives are so parallel in so many ways, of the way he wrote his books, told his stories, carried his own films to different theaters, and just his tenacity and his believing and investing in himself. And had it not been for an Oscar Michaud, there certainly couldn't be a Tyler Perry. So it means a great deal to be able to stand in those shoes and kind of experience what he felt. So I'm looking forward to it.
What is the one thing that you haven't gotten a chance to do yet that you still want to?
I tell you, I have this movie called The Jazz Man's Blues that I wrote in 1995 about a jazz singer and a Holocaust survivor. And it's time for me to do that movie. That is my labor of love. That is the one that I want to do more than anything. So it's time for me to do that movie. The time was never right because of just where we were in the country. You know, people wouldn't have accepted it. They wouldn't have accepted, no studio would have invested in it. But now it's time.
Will you write and star in that film? Write, direct? What roles do you want to play in that one?
I wrote this movie for me, Will Smith, Halle Berry, and Diana Ross in 1995. Well, I've aged out of it because the characters are all in their 20s. Now I'm looking for brand new, young, fresh faces who've committed themselves to the craft, who are an incredible actor to play these roles. And it would be amazing if I can find the right actors and pull that off the way that I see it. So now I just want to direct it.
Is there anybody that you have coming up that you're already, ready to push out to the world? Somebody that you want to promote?
There's a kid that works for me named Armani Ortiz that is a brilliant filmmaker. I just can't wait for him to get his moment and the world sees him shine. He's got an eye that blows me away. So once the world starts to really see what he can do, it's going to blow some people's mind.
You said if you weren't in this business that you'd probably be an architect.
Yeah. So
what would life for Tyler Perry, the architect, be like? Would you be just as happy as Tyler Perry, the mogul?
For sure, because there are certain things that I would have to have that would fulfill me, and that is being able to carry a lot of people along the way. So as long as I had a lot of people that I could hire that could work for me, that I could help them live better lives, and especially ones who've been disenfranchised and haven't had that opportunity. I had a conversation around here the other day with a former prisoner that blew my mind. He was in jail since he was 18 years old. He's 36 now. He came here to work, and this place has helped him to come alive. He feels like he has a life now. He met his fiance here. They're getting married soon. He's about to buy a house and a car, and he's seeing life like he never thought he could. And when I look at his childhood and look at all that he went through, that's what works for me. That's what makes me feel great. That's what keeps me going. I didn't have to do this quarantine. I could have went and sat on an island and waited for this thing to be over. But when I look at these people and I hear their stories, it just inspires me to keep going. So the architect Tyler Perry would have hoped to have been doing some of the same things.